Let's talk about money. Money is important because it pays the bills, but besides that, it can provide you security and freedom and just the very basic stuff for you to be able to, the basic needs: food, shelter, security, and opportunities for growth. Why am I talking about money? Because there are entitlements that is available to every service member when they change duty station or when they PCS. And a lot of these entitlements I didn't know about until I started making YouTube videos because I had to do my own research. So pay attention to this. I would suggest bring your wife with you, so at least she'll have an idea as well on what are your entitlements, ways for you to get money while you're PCS, because it's gonna be stressful. You're taking your entire life, put it in a box, and then travel across the country, and you're gonna need money for that. Not just for the travel itself, but also when you get there. The first entitlement is your advance. There's two kinds of advances. One is your pay advance, and the second one is your BAH advance. These advances are great because instead of taking out loans from a bank, you're not paying any interest rate. So this is a 0% loan that could help you when you get to your destination or when you're leaving, because there's so many expenses involved when you're moving. The pay advance is that you can request 1 month of your base pay. So look at your LES, your pay stub in the military. That is the amount you can request in advance. The way you pay it back is once you receive the funds, you have 12 months to pay it back. It gets automatically deducted from your paycheck, half of it on the 15th and half of it on the 1st of the month. The second advance is your BAH. The difference is on the BAH advance, you just look at the zip code. That's the amount of money you can request in advance. On the BAH advance, you can request up to 3 months worth. So if your BAH is $2,000, you can request up to $6,000. 1 month after you receive the advance, they'll take it out from your paycheck, half on the 15th and half on the 1st of the month. Just be careful though, because that's a big amount of money to pay back within the year. It does help you out a lot because you can use that as a down payment towards a house, security deposit, whatever it may be. You don't need to keep no receipts because it's basically a loan. It's way better than taking out a traditional loan because you're not paying any interest. If you take it out from the bank, especially if a personal loan, it's a little high interest because it's an unsecured loan. It's very risky. So rather than taking out loan from a bank, get these two entitlements first. And plus, your credit doesn't even matter. You request a loan from the bank, your credit's gonna get dinged. Granted, it's probably gonna be lower payment if you're requesting it from the bank because you're spreading it across, I don't know, 5-6 years of payment. This is deducted in 12 separate payments, which is 1 year. The next entitlement is your dislocation allowance. It's a DLA. It's basically an allowance that you get because you're being dislocated, you're getting relocated, and this you don't have to pay back. You're automatically gonna get this once you are on orders to PCS somewhere. This covers relocation costs and based on your rank. Here's an example of how much you can get with the DLA or the amount. I'll also put it in the description below so you can check out how much exactly you're gonna get based on your rank. And remember, you don't have to pay this back. This is money that goes to you and your family for all the expenses that you're gonna incur during your move. The next one is TLE. TLE is temporary lodging expense. This right here, typically you can get up to 14 days of TLE, and you can use the TLE if you're still on PAG. Now, TLE really pays for your lodging and at the same time, meals for you and your family. It pays for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and some incidentals. TLE is considered a per diem. Now, per diem is basically how much money that you get per day when you're traveling. It also applies for TLE. That per diem that you get during travel is separate from TLE. TLE is used for when you don't have a place to stay yet, and you can get it up to 14 days. Just make sure you keep your receipts, especially the hotel receipts. Even though TLE in general is about 14 days, there are some locations that you can be authorized upon request to extend more than 14 days. Here are the examples of all the locations that you can extend the TLE past the 14 days, and I'll also put this in the description below. Another example of TLE is that when you already found a house and you move into the house, however, you haven't unpacked yet, your household goods has not been delivered yet, although you don't get the amount for the lodging since you won't have receipts, you're living because you're already living in the house, you can still claim the meals on that period that you're requesting a TLE for. Keep in mind, TLE is capped up to $290 per day, and it is based on the location. So for example, in Tacoma, Washington, if you're PCSing to JBLM, you'll get $69 per day, but your first and last day of that TLE is $51.75, and your daily lodging maximum in Tacoma, Washington is $132. As long as you stay in a hotel that's below $132, you're fine. Remember, you can also use Airbnb. It's not limited to just hotels. So if you have Airbnb, because the advantage of Airbnb, it's fully furnished for the most part. Remember, always keep your receipts. The next entitlement you get is professional transfers or licensing fees for your spouse. It's basically because some spouses are licensed in one state and they move to a different state, they'll have to reapply for licensing. For example, my wife used to be a dental hygienist, so her license is only applicable in the state that she's practicing. So if we were to move in a different state, some state would require additional classes or recertification to be able to practice dental hygiene there. So this entitlement actually gives you up to $1,000 to use towards relicensing fees. Another example, if your wife is a real estate agent and the place that you're about to PCS to, she's not licensed to sell a house there, so you can use this $1,000 to relicense or apply for a license for that specific state, so your wife can still continue her career on your next duty station. This next entitlement is great, especially, it applies to me because I have dogs. It only got approved this year, about January 2024. It's basically the pet fees that you incurred during your PCS move. I remember on our PCS, when we map our route, I had to map out every single La Quinta Inns in the route to our new duty station, because La Quinta Inn is one of the places that allows pets and doesn't charge you any fees for your pets. Now in 2024, they approved that during your PCS, you get money for those pet fees that you incur. So you're not limited to just La Quinta Inn. You can go to different hotels and does allow pets, but charges you a fee. So if you're traveling within the continental United States, you get $550 for all the fees that you're gonna pay for your babies, your dogs, and your cats. And I say dogs and cats because this is only applicable for dogs and cats, or both. You can't have reptiles, no gerbils, no rabbits. So this fee, you can still have them, but the Army's not going to pay for it. Now, if you're traveling overseas, you can get up to $2,000 for reimbursement when it comes to your pet fees. It covers, besides the hotel fees, mandatory microchips, mandatory registration, vaccination, boarding, and even if you decide to fly, it pays for the fees to ship your pet to your next duty station, because some people just elect to fly instead to drive. Here's the next one, travel pay. This is a little confusing, so pay attention to this one because there's a lot of factors that comes into travel pay. So your travel pay really pays for the mileage, the meals, and the lodging, and it's called per diem. So this is really what you would get when you're on the road from your duty station to your next duty station. Here's an example. So let's say you're traveling to go to Washington State, Tacoma, Washington. Lodging for Tacoma, Washington en route is $136. That's maximum, or they give you $136 every day for your lodging. And incidentals, also your meals. Your meals would be $86 every day, but your first and last day of your travel is $64.50. For your family, if you are married and you have kids, you also get money for their meals. So if they're traveling with you, they get 75% of how much your entitlement is. What it means is if your meals and incidentals is $86 a day, 75% of that $86 is what you're entitled to for your wife or anybody that's above the age of 12. Now, if you have kids or dependents below the age of 12.
Hi, Mommy. I just want to tell you something. Barbie lives in Malibu.
Then you get 50%. So just do the math on there. Depending on how many kids you have, that's how much you're entitled for when it comes to traveling. If, for example, because I've done this before where I traveled separate from my family, and if my wife travels separately, even if it's the same day on a different car, then they'll also get 100% per diem. So if they travel, let's say a week ahead of me or a week after me, they'll get the same per diem. I know it's confusing, but it seems like if you travel separately, you actually make more money because you're getting the same entitlement twice. But if they're traveling with you, then they'll get 75% for anybody that's age 12 and above, and then 12 and below, you get 50% of what the entitlement is. To calculate the numbers of days you're authorized to travel from your current duty station to your new duty station, you gotta do a little bit of math. What you need to do is look at driving miles from your current duty station to your next duty station. Your first 400 miles is considered one day, and then the rest is every 350 miles. That's considered another day. So the only difference is your first 400 miles is one day. Anything after that is 350 miles is equivalent to one day. So if you're traveling 1,200 miles, and remember, it's driving distance, not as the crow flies or straight line, it's driving distance. At 1,200 miles, you're authorized 3 days of travel total. And remember to keep your receipt. They might not need it, but I always keep my receipt just in case. Here's the last one. This is MALT, Monetary Allowance in lieu of transportation. So basically, you're getting paid for mileage. This is an easy one because it's kind of fixed rate. So it's 22 cents per mile. So in the same example of 1,200 miles of travel, you get $264 per vehicle. The maximum you're allowed to have as far as the Army is concerned, paying you money to move from one state to another, is 2 vehicles. So if you have 2 vehicles, you're traveling 1,200 miles with 22 cents per mile, that would give you $264 times 2. Then you get $528 just to travel because of your mileage. And no, they don't pay for gas. All right, those are the things about money when it comes to PCS that I actually didn't know. So hopefully you learned something in this video. If you did, put it in the comments down below. And guys, these videos are not easy to make. It requires time. So if you want me to keep making videos like this, do me a favor, consider subscribing to the channel, hit the like button, and if you know somebody who's about to PCS, share this video to them so they might learn a little bit when it comes to what their entitlements are and how much money they potentially could get during PCS time frame. Stay new, because that way you learn a lot more. This is the High Speed FNG.